I'm inviting you on a journey today. We'll start from my home in Redwood City, California. Our first stop is Buenos Aires, Argentina, to visit Bernard Malone. Hi, Bernard. It's great to see you.
Hi, how are you, Tiki? Doing well?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for joining me and helping me tour Argentina a little bit through brands. So I see your brand behind you. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, sure. The brand is Havana. It's very popular for us here in Argentina. I have very fond memories of it. It's a product that is originally from Mar del Plata. Mar del Plata is a vacation area where many people, most Argentines have been going to Mar del Plata for summer vacation. And I always remember as a small kid, you always had to go to Mar del Plata and eat an alfajor, because this is delicious. And always there was no leftovers. So whenever we had a barbecue at home, family get together, I remember, hey, Bernard, why don't you go and buy some alfajores? So give me the money and just run to the shop. But you had to bring exact number of alfajores for everybody that was in the house at that time, because there was no leftovers. If there was any leftovers, somebody would, snatch it or whatever the day after or so. So the story is only one per person, and you had to buy exactly the same numbers. It was always a replacement for a dessert, something to celebrate, getting together after a barbecue or for tea or whatever, something sweet that always came in nice.
Now, you would have these in your family, but if you were traveling or something, when you came back from Mar del Plata, would friends expect to see one of these? How would that go?
Yes, actually, the popular saying here is, I'm going on vacation to Mar del Plata, and somebody will say, don't forget the alfajores, which means that when you're coming back, you had to bring alfajores back for your family, friends, and so on. And actually, there's one of the most famous shops in Mar del Plata is on the outskirts when you're on the highway coming back to Buenos Aires. So everybody stops there. And just as an example, the most common box is of 12 alfajores. But for people traveling, the most common box was 48 alfajores. Just as showing that you're traveling back and you're taking alfajores for friends, family, and so on. That's always when you travel to Mar del Plata, everybody's expecting you to bring alfajores back.
That's great. Thank you so much, Bernard, for telling me about Havana alfajores.
Thank you. Great. I'll take you a box of alfajores next INTA meeting whenever we can do it in person.
That'll be wonderful. Thank you. With a fond muchísimas gracias to Bernard, let's head to Nairobi, Kenya, to meet with Lorna Mbatia. Hi, Lorna. It's great to see you.
Hi, Tiki. Great to see you.
So I'm home in Northern California, and I understand you're home in Nairobi. And thanks so much for joining us. Can you tell me the brand you chose for this project?
So I chose Omo, which is laundry washing detergent.
So tell me some more about that brand and why you chose it.
So I chose it because of the influence that the brand has in terms of promoting healthy habits. So in my case, I remember the Dirt is Good campaign, which to me stood out because it promotes worry-free creativity and exploration, especially growing up as a child. And it would also allow us to, help out around the home and not be afraid of getting dirty. So for me, this brand stands out because it's a case where a brand has a social impact and also just shapes the society by allowing people young and old to explore their creative side.
So in your own life, what stories does this brand tell?
So I have really fond memories about the brand because growing up, play was quite a common aspect of growing up, because most of the time it was safe. So we were allowed to spend a lot of time outdoors. And you'd find, especially during the holidays, like the children from the neighborhood would all congregate at a field and, you know, explore, play, get creative ways of even making things like footballs. Would actually enjoy more playing with things we'd actually created, or recycling, looking around for bottles, finding creative ways of playing with what was available. So I find that philosophy that that is good enabled us to go out there, explore, and create wonderful memories growing up, and also helping around, because if it's helping around in the kitchen or gardening, we're not afraid of getting dirty, because we knew that there was a product that would get the dirt out, and that was good.
So what does this brand represent to you now?
So for me, I would say now it represents freedom, it represents creativity, exploration, and really immersing myself fully in experiences.
That's great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
With mental images of children playing in Kenya's beautiful countryside, let's steer north to Dubai in the UAE to chat with Mariam Sabet. Thank you so much for joining me and telling us about a brand that was important to you when you grow up.
Thanks, Tiki. It's really exciting to participate in this story, brand story. So when I was trying to choose the brand, because there's so many brands, Egyptian brands that I really relate to, but I mean, the one brand that I really chose is actually a particular chocolate brand. It's called, the company is actually called Corona. But I mean, it had no effect at all about the brand. So it's 100 years old company. So it goes back to really, really historically a long time ago. And so that brand basically represents to me happiness. I mean, for me, I'm a big chocolate fan and lover. So obviously my obvious choice was which chocolate brand I will use. There was no question that it wasn't going to be a chocolate brand. So that was for sure. But especially now that I'm an expat, but then in a few years, I grew up for a couple of years in Tokyo. And as a child, obviously you really connect more with like chocolate kind of brands. But that particular brand from the company Corona was really something that just reminds me of my childhood. It just evokes so many emotions that you can't realize. It's not just eating a chocolate, right? So when I grew up in Tokyo when I was like 4 until 8 years old, and we go back to Cairo for the summer, the first thing I would want to do is get that chocolate by all means, because it just reminded me of, okay, now I'm back home. And as a child, you really have very simple ways of connecting with your sense of, you know, home and belonging. We don't really understand yet the concept of a lot of things. So that for us and for me as a child, chocolate, I mean, it's a very simple thing, but it wasn't only as a child. I mean, as I grew older, it was always something that you just take it. When I go back, after I come back during the summer holidays, I go back to Cairo, and you just start remembering so many things that I never knew, that you don't remember on a daily basis, and it just remembers home, the feel of Egypt. It's a very local brand. So it really is for me something of a taste of home.
You were telling me while we were chatting, you have a memory of walking with your dad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, ever since I was so young, my dad was an avid walker. So he'd walk for hours, and that was his workout basically. And so he had this routine that he'd walk all over Tokyo basically. And then I started joining him when I was young. And then it started to become a ritual back then in the 80s in Tokyo. We'd walk in and then just talk. And then obviously to satisfy my sweet tooth, because that's the beginning how he wanted me to start the journey of walking with him, was we're going to stop by that ice cream store. So that was a really incentive for me to start the walking. But then it became a ritual, and it was just fantastic because you know, you forget why you're walking at the end of the day. It's just a journey, you're just having a chat and conversation. And he was so chilled, and that's his favorite moment of the day. And I love that I got to share that with him. And even when we left Tokyo, that tradition continued. So when we came back, it became still a ritual thing. Now landscape changed, country changed, road pavements obviously changed a lot in Egypt, but we still made it. We still made our walks to the little kiosk stores in Cairo.
And then how about later when you were a teenager?
So when I went back to Cairo after that, I mean, obviously every summer when I used to go back, even when I was still living in Tokyo, I'd go back and the first thing is, okay, it's time to go get, you know, my chocolate. So that was, again, we continued the routine with my father. We find also our walking routine in the streets of Cairo and walk to the store there and basically also get it and have all our chats. And it was really nice reminiscing our memories, like walking the streets of Tokyo, walking the streets of Cairo. And it really became more of just the journey and the walks and just the conversation. How was my day at school? And we talk about it. And for me, obviously, you know, the fun part was getting the chocolate as well, but also sharing that moments with him. It was really, really special. After that, as a teen as well, when I got a bit older, I continued that, do it with my friends. We just do very simple things. We just go walk to the store. An idea of a, you know, fun night would be walk to the store, have our snacks, come back and just, you know, like very, very simple and very, like the pleasures of life were very simple back then.
Oh, fantastic. Great. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Tiki. Thank you.
After more stories of chocolate bringing friends and family together, it's on to Singapore to see Rachel Tan. Rachel, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to do a brand story for us.
Very happy to do so, Tiki.
So you're in your backyard in Singapore, correct?
I know. So after 21 years of living abroad, I'm back in Singapore during the pandemic year.
That's great. Thank you. Can you tell us your brand story?
Yeah. So because of the pandemic, I think nostalgia is a word that resonates with a lot of us who are living abroad. And the brand I chose is by a Japanese brand called Lion Cup, and it's called Mama Lemon. And this is in Chinese as well. And it's a dishwashing liquid that has been in my family kitchen since I was 4 or 5 years old.
That's great. How did it come to you? You have a great story behind us.
I know. So it's a funny thing. When I was, you know, in the 70s, when I was really like 4 or 5 years old, my mom was asked to do an advertisement for Mama Lemon. And so she and I appeared in the ad together. And since then, we've always had a bottle in the kitchen, you know, as long as I know. Yeah.
So what about it really evokes home for you?
Well, so one thing is that, you know, in the ad and with Mama Lemon, they always use the memory thread of being safe and effective, but gentle on your hands. And, you know, since I've always seen it in the kitchen, so wherever I go and, you know, with that fresh scent of lemon, I always, you know, it brings me back to my childhood. And I feel that it represents something that is really constant, is effective, but also a feeling of safety and warmth. And it makes me think of my mom. So that really, it resonates with me every time I see it.
That's great. Thanks so much.
You're very welcome.
I hope this scent of soap conjures good childhood memories for you too. We have one final leg on our Brand Stories World Tour to Beijing, China, to meet with Yongjin Lei. Hi, Yongjin. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi, Tiki. Nice to meet you.
Great to see you. Thank you. And tell me about the brand that you want to tell us a story about today.
It's a very sweet brand. In China, we call it 大白兔, which means a big white rabbit. But I saw on the package, it just call it white rabbit without the big one. I don't know why. Yeah, it's a kind of candy, milk candy. Actually, we had it very early in my life. I think the first time I saw it when I was like 5 or 6 years old. Yeah, that's a beautiful, sweet candy. A lot of Chinese people, especially those born in 70s, 80s, they like it so much.
Oh, that's great. Now, this is a milk candy, right? So it's unusual for that reason also.
Yes, so that's why it's called, I think that's one of probably the reasons it called itself as the white rabbit. And at one time, the rabbit is white, and at the same time, the milk is white.
That makes sense. So do you have specific memories of being 5 or 6 and what you would be doing when you would eat this candy?
Yeah, definitely. I think that was very impressive because it's not a daily, it's not a thing that you can come across every day when I was young, because it's kind of a very rare. we only saw the White Rabbit when we were celebrating the Chinese Spring Festival, or we were engaged in the people's weddings. So we were given this candy as a kind of a present or a surprise to tell you, okay, we are indeed have something very big, something significant. So not every day we can eat it, but only in some very special events, as I mentioned, Spring Festival and people's weddings, we can just eat this kind of a candy. When I was young, but I'm growing up and people can just buy the candy online, and so it becomes part of our life. And right now, I don't know whether the children nowadays still like the candy as we liked it when we were young, but it's more accessible right now.
Do you have any other times when you would buy it and share it with someone else? Are there any times now that you're grown that it would come up for you?
Yeah, I have to be frank. I have to say I'm right now controlling the sugar intake. So I a lot of times would not purposely go to the store to buy some candies. However, if I lose the motivation or inspiration to do my work or continue in my life, sometimes I will go to the store and buy a pack of White Rabbit. That's what I indeed do nowadays. And it's not a kind of I'll eat all of them. Probably I'll just have a bite of one or two, but I just want to revive myself. Just give myself a little bit energy. How pure we were young, and to just refresh myself, to just have a little moment of being myself and being my childhood with this kind of a small but really valuable candy.
That is such wonderful wisdom and inspiration. We've all had a very hard year, and it's so great that you have this thing that could take you back to childhood and just a different feeling.